see the big lie, or shall I say the big lies? Oh my gosh, they're all over the place. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is Tuesday. It is the 10th, I had to check, of June. And as always, holding the legacy media feet to the fire because you won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome to the Tuesday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, and I have to apologize. Yesterday's show, we had some serious technical difficulties, and I understood after I ended up shutting everything down that it wasn't just me. There are all kinds of problems going on all over the country. People's internet is malfunctioning. The buffering rate, it keeps on popping up, and the speeds are going crazy. Some people get no internet. I had, over the weekend, I had a shutdown of my internet here. And anyway, that said, that's why we didn't have a show yesterday. Okay, as always, the WTF reports are brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. Now, I'm getting my Wave Watch back. I loaned it to a friend of mine, and she had it for almost a month. And anyway, I was talking to her this morning, and she was telling me about some of the benefits that she's enjoyed. I'm going to get her over here and have her discuss it, and I'm going to have her testimony here. But yeah, this little Rife machine, that's what it is. It's a Rife machine you wear on your wrist. And if you're not familiar with Rife machines, do some research, and you'll find out that Rife frequencies are right in line with Tesla. And this little Wave Watch is a little Rife machine, and it has a lot of very interesting benefits. And I'm not here to say it's going to cure or treat anything. I just don't want to get in trouble with the FDA or anything like that. But it would behoove you to do some research into the Wave Watch. And when you do, buy one. Okay, get one. Go to our website, thewtfreports.com, and click on the sponsors page, and you'll get you get a $100, there we go, $100 discount if you purchase it through our website. So go to thewtfreports.com and check out the Wave Watch. All right, that said, there's so much to get to, but I'm going to turn the clock back a little over a week. Okay, a week ago yesterday, you may recall, it's been in the news, not the mainstream is not carrying it that much, but the bottom line here is that Dick Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham made a very quiet trip over to Ukraine. Now, that was unannounced. They went over there, and they met with Zelensky. And there's something called the Logan Act that's a federal crime. You don't go over there and negotiate, make foreign negotiations and on behalf of the United States, and the president didn't know about it. Anyway, I just want to share with you a little audio clip here. I'm here with the audio receipts. WTF with the facts. And after you hear the facts, then you go, WTF! Anyway, listen up to this one here.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because this isn't just politics. It's a full-blown reckoning. Washington was still half asleep when the lightning bolt struck. President Donald J. Trump, now firmly entrenched in his second term, dropped a political nuke that sent shockwaves from Capitol Hill to the cobblestone streets of Kyiv. 2 U.S. senators, Richard Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham, had allegedly spent $800,000 in taxpayer dollars on luxury suites, rooftop cocktails, and caviar in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Trump's response? Arrest them. That's not a typo. The President of the United States greenlit federal action to pursue criminal charges against sitting senators for what insiders are already calling the Kiev kleptocracy. Sources inside the DOJ say surveillance footage, wire transfers, and hotel invoices paint a damning picture of indulgence masked as diplomacy. But let's rewind. According to multiple reports, Blumenthal and Graham vanished from D.C. without the typical fanfare of a diplomatic mission. No press, no policy. Just a mysterious foreign relations budget authorization and a penthouse view of Kyiv. Hotel receipts alone allegedly show over $7,000 in minibar charges, more than some Americans make in a month. And then came the kicker.
Okay, I'm going to pause it. $7,000 in a bar tab. Let that sink in.
Photos of Graham beside an unidentified Ukrainian businessman. Briefcase in hand. Champagne flowed. So did suspicions. Trump's inner circle, including Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, moved with the urgency of a nation betrayed. This isn't an audit, one DOJ source whispered. It's a manhunt in tailored suits. The president, never one for subtlety, took to the podium and simply said, 2 men you trusted took your money and toasted to it overseas. I won't let it go unpunished. The press room exploded. So did social media. And from the rusted farms of Iowa to the snow-covered classrooms of Detroit, something stirred. Something raw and familiar. Rage. A retired Marine in North Carolina taped a cardboard sign to his truck. 800,000 for lobster tails. I sleep in this truck. His video? Viral. His pain. National. A 4th grade teacher in Tulsa cried on camera as she showed her students' cracked ceiling. They said there's no money for heaters. She choked. But there's money for penthouse jacuzzis. Inside Kiev's gilded National Hotel, Blumenthal reportedly turned pale when Ukrainian officials whispered, "Your departure has been delayed, per Washington." Senators, flagged by Interpol. Their escape route?
Sealed, yeah. Okay, now we're going to connect some dots. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure some of this stuff out. Okay, that was a week ago yesterday, all right? That was on June 2nd. So Blumenthal and Graham go over to Kiev, suitcase in hand, shake hands with Zelensky. They charge, the American taxpayers over $800,000 for their trip, okay? And a $7,000 bar tab, all right? Okay, so just let that settle in for a minute. That was on June 2nd. Then, 2 days after that, was the drone attack from Ukraine into Russia, destroying $7 billion worth of their bombers, of Russia's bombers, okay? And, of course, that's an act of war, all right? So we're going to connect some dots here. At the same time, there was a raid at Jerry Nadler's office in New York. Now, they were saying this was an ICE raid because there were some illegal aliens working with Jerry Nadler's staff, all right? However, However, there is a report. Let me see where it is here. I had it up here. Let me see. I got so many tabs open. I have to go through. Okay, here. I had so many tabs open now. I can't seem to find it. Oh, by the way, while I'm looking for that, I want to remind you what the Logan Act says. Okay, as far as Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal going over there to shake hands with Zelensky and pass a suitcase over there, sip champagne, eat lobster tails. The Logan Act, as I'm reading from Wikipedia, the Logan Act is a United States federal law that criminalizes the negotiation of a dispute between the United States and a foreign government by an unauthorized American citizen. Now, I can't say for sure, but it seems to me that Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal are not authorized to go over there and discuss, policies with Zelensky. That just doesn't seem to be right. Doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I don't know about you, but let's see here if I can find that other thing. But what I was getting at is that there was this raid at Jerry Nadler's office right around the same time that the drone strike was happening. And what do you think that they found there? Well, it's been reported that there were, shall we say, there was hardware there, triggering devices, and drone controlling equipment, something to that effect. So was Jerry Nadler's office connected to the drone attacks? Now this would be an act of war, okay? And as it was reported by the Citizen Watch report, It says here, a sitting U.S. Congressman, Jerry Nadler, caught with military-grade drone warfare tech in his office. A sitting U.S. Congressman, Jerry Nadler, caught with military-grade drone warfare tech in his office. Encrypted triggers, global strike capabilities, weapons of war in the hands of a Democrat. Yeah, this is treason. It's not politics. Reports suggest that federal agents raided Congressman Jerry Nadler's office, allegedly uncovering military-grade drone warfare technology. The Department of Homeland Security reportedly led the operation, but mainstream sources have not confirmed these allegations. So we can't confirm this, but this is what's going on out there. All right? So you connect the dots. And we haven't heard much of anything. I mean, this is a huge story. This is huge. This is big, 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 big. I mean, this is definitely worthy of a WTF. Ain't no bow to doubt it. Okay, so that's one issue, okay? That is connecting Lindsey Graham, Dick Blumenthal, Nadler, and the Ukrainian officials and the drone attack in Russia. So let that settle in for a little bit. Now, let's change gears a little bit. Okay, we all know that there's this feud going on between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Okay, and keep in mind that under the Biden administration, you know, there was all this talk about the Epstein files, and of course, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was cozied up with Bill Clinton and a lot of other Democrats, and yes, Republicans as well, but it's mostly Hollywood and all of the lefties. We're all plugged into this pedophile, sex trafficking, whatever you want to call it. All right? So it's understandable that under the Biden administration that was sort of backburnered, you know. Nothing to see here. Let's move on. We won't pursue this at all, you know. Yeah, okay, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. He's a done deal. Let's forget about it. And all the Democrats, of course, say, yeah, let's forget about it. Well, Musk puts this thing out and says, hey, guess what? Trump was on the flight logs. And all the Democrats, all of a sudden, now they flip and they go, release the flight, release the client list, release all the information about Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe that was the point. Was America being trolled? Well, let's get back to this thing with Jeffrey Epstein, okay? Now, we've got Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi apparently have two different views of what was going on with that. Listen up to this. These are two clips side by side.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Okay, I'm going to pause that. If there were videos, don't you think you'd see it? You heard Kash Patel. And yet Pam Bondi said...
The FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims.
Okay, so you got Pam Bondi saying there's tens of thousands of hours of these videos. And you get Kash Patel saying, if there were the videos, don't you think I'd know about it? Something's wrong here. Something stinks. Something really, really stinks. Okay? Now let's move over. You know, Kash Patel, of course, is FBI director, and we got Dan Bongino as assistant director. And we all know that Dan Bongino's been screaming about the Epstein list, the Epstein files, for years before he was tagged as assistant director of the FBI. Let's listen to what Bongino said.
About a year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but I don't know who they are. It says, you know, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. Yeah. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But
What? Which Middle Eastern countries, I don't know? What else do you have to say?
This person who is a very, very good reporter, I mean, aces, right? swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up, and they're the ones who have all this stuff. So the point is, to sum it up, how do you know some of these countries aren't going to some of these power players who aren't making decisions? Because, hey, you wouldn't want this video out there, right? How do you know?
100%.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt there's blackmail going on. You're right about that, Danny boy. But it's kind of amazing that you can't figure out which Middle Eastern country would have access to those videos. I wonder why. I wonder why he can't figure that out. Well, why don't we ask him? Here we go.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, defense of Israel.
Okay, so that's the number one cause that's dear to his heart is the defense of Israel. No wonder he doesn't want to have any information about where those videotapes are. And of course, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were last week interviewed about whether or not Epstein actually killed himself. And now they're totally backtracking.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
My gosh, isn't it amazing how they flip-flop? Yeah. Well, let's hear another clip from Kash Patel.
We will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
Number one ally, prioritize Israel. Yeah, okay, I wonder what made them switch their minds. Bribery, coercion, blackmail. Yeah, those are three magic words. And by the way, as an aside, if you go to our website, we have a brand new t-shirt there with those three magic words. Bribery, coercion, blackmail. And that's what makes the world go round. Yeah. Anyway, now there's another little thing before we move on from the Epstein issue, connection with some Middle Eastern country. Let's get a little history on Jeffrey Epstein, shall we?
As part of our investigation, we spoke to Ari Ben-Mashani, who is a former Israeli spy. He said on the record unequivocally that Jeffrey Epstein was working for Israeli intelligence operations, the Mossad, and running a classic honey trap operation.
Okay, pause it right there. I wonder if that's going to help you out, Danny boy. Hey, Kash, did you hear that? Okay, now again, I want to remind you folks, I'm here with the audio receipts. This is not Dave vonKleist saying this stuff. I go through all this stuff and I grab the audio receipts so I can play them on the air so that you, dear people, dear listener, dear dedicated patriot, can put the puzzle pieces together and come to your own conclusion. Let's continue.
That is, lure people inside, record their activities and learn about their peccadillos and use it to blackmail them. This is a former spy on the record in the new book, Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Interestingly, this person was also the handler of Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and ex-girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was said to have been one of the women who helped procure the underage girls for Epstein. She has denied that. But her father was Robert Maxwell, a media and press baron who owned the Mirror News Group in England and also the New York Daily News. He was a former Mossad agent. And according to my source, Ari Ben-Mashari, the business that Robert Maxwell had was turned over to Jeffrey Epstein almost in a switch before Robert Maxwell died in mysterious circumstances off the back of a boat in 1991.
Well, this is mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, you're darn right it's mind-boggling stuff. I hope we can share that with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. How come you guys can't figure this out? Well, you know what? Some of you may be aware of a wonderful deep researcher by the name of Whitney Webb. She has a 2-volume book out there. It's called One Nation Under Blackmail. And yeah, it's a huge book. Volume 1 is huge. Volume 2 is huge. And I got to tell you, I started going through this book. Just chapter 1 alone is about 36 pages. And at the end of each chapter, not at the end of the book, at the end of each chapter are the footnotes. And she has 2.5 pages of footnotes just for the first chapter. This woman has definitely crossed her T's and dotted her I's, and she's got all the data. So, hey, Cash, maybe you want to get in touch with Whitney Webb. And Dan Bongino, maybe you want to talk to Whitney Webb. She's got all the receipts. And I got the audio receipts. Folks, are we being had by the Trump administration? Now, I don't want to place doubt, I mean, this country is in a world of hurt right now. And I will get to this issue, what's going on in L.A. with those riots in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to get, to the root of the problem here. I mean, this is huge. Anyway, there's connecting some dots. Now, there are many journalists out there that have been looking at this situation with Israel and Palestine for quite some time. Last week, I played a clip from Abby Martin. I want to replay that, and then she followed up with another clip. So we need to take a serious look at who our greatest ally is. And again, I want to point out, I'm not bashing Jews, because I know plenty of Jewish people that are absolutely horrified and disgusted with what's going on over there in Israel in regard to how they're treating the Palestinians and have been treating the Palestinians since 1948, since the Nakba. A lot of Jewish people are very much against Israel and what's doing this. And I'll tell you, unfortunately, most Americans, they're just not educated enough or informed enough to be able to separate the difference between Zionism and Judaism. We'll get to that as well. But anyway, here's Abby Martin discussing what she saw when she went over to Israel several years ago. This before the October 7th attack. Listen to Abby Martin.
I had a debate with an Israeli spokesperson who said, "You're wrong about Israel. Come visit Israel and we'll show you the truth." And so I said, okay, I'll see the truth for myself. So I went in 2016 and wow, it was a transformative, life-changing trip. Everything that I thought I knew was actually much worse than I had even thought. I spent 4 weeks traveling all across the West Bank, small villages, refugee camps. I remember going to Hebron, which was the most visceral example of Israeli apartheid I'd ever seen. And then, of course, going into the borders of 48 was just the absolute dichotomous opposite. Spending several weeks with Palestinians, hearing their hearts poured open, the most beautiful, welcoming, gracious people I've ever met in my life. And no one ever said anything remotely racist. No one said anything remotely anti-Semitic. And it was just the opposite of the narrative that we've been told our whole lives. Now, going into the borders of 48, the racism and bigotry was visceral. It was palpable to the point where I couldn't even bear to be there for more than a couple hours. I was so disgusted with how racist Israelis were. And there's a reason why Americans are not shown what Israeli society thinks and believes on camera. We're only shown a very sanitized version of what Israeli society thinks and believes because they handpick spokespeople with American accents to speak to Americans. Israelis don't ever speak for themselves.
That's right. They have spokespersons that are very good at PR. Anyway, Abby followed up with the following installment. Listen up.
I'm a changed person. I will never be the same. I don't know how anyone can be. Looking at the crimes against humanity that we've all witnessed, especially against children. These helpless children slaughtered in the tens of thousands. Humanity's dead. I don't know what I'm going to tell my children. I don't know how I can explain to them that the world has allowed this to happen. And if we don't hold Israel accountable, what's next? What's next? That's the question that I want to ask. Is this really the world that we're going to live in? Where this state can commit these crimes on camera with impunity? Proudly. That's not the world that I wish to grow children in and raise children in. And it terrifies me. So yes, I'm very impacted, and I question people who are not. I question people's soul if you are not impacted by what you see.
Yeah, that's right. I would question someone's soul as well. I cannot figure out for the life of me how anyone, I don't care whether you're a Christian or a Jew or Muslim, I don't understand how anybody can sit by and watch and listen. And this stuff is posted all over the internet and still stay, well, Israel's our greatest ally. We're sending Israel billions of dollars every year. They have free health care. They have free education. They got all the military hardware they could possibly ask for because we send it over there. And the rest of the world sees this. It's not like this is all hidden or anything. The whole world is looking at the United States and Israel and saying, what the heck are you doing? What is wrong with you people? The whole world is screaming at the top of their lungs a collective WTF. As a matter of fact, there was a woman, I want to share this with you, at Oxford University. Her name is Susan Abulhawa. Abulhawa, yeah, that's right, Susan Abulhawa. And she was addressing the I forget the group that they have. They have a group that gets together. And she put out this following dissertation. Basically, what she was saying is, let's put the shoe on the other foot. How would it be if the Palestinians were treating Israelis? Listen to this comparison. This will help put things into perspective for you. Listen up to this.
Because if the roles were reversed, if Palestinians had spent the last 8 decades stealing Jewish homes, expelling, oppressing, imprisoning, poisoning, torturing, killing, raping them. If Palestinians had killed an estimated 300,000 Jews in 1 year, targeted their journalists, their thinkers, their healthcare workers, their athletes, their artists, bombed every Israeli hospital, university, library, museum, cultural center, synagogue, and simultaneously set up an observation platform where citizens came to watch their slaughter as if a tourist attraction. If Palestinians had corralled them by the hundreds of thousands into flimsy tents, bombed them in so-called safe zones, burned them alive, cut off their food and water and medicine. If Palestinians made their children wander barefoot with empty pots, made them gather the flesh of their parents into plastic bags, bury their siblings, their cousins, their friends, made them sneak out from their tents at night to sleep on their parents' graves, made them pray for death just to join their families and not be alone in this terrible world. If we terrorize them so utterly that their children lose their hair, lose their memory, lose their minds, and made those as young as 4 and 5 die of heart attacks. If we mercilessly force their NICU babies to die, alone in hospital beds, crying until they could cry no more, died and decomposed in the same spot. If Palestinians used wheat flour, a truck, to lure starving Jews, then opened fire on them as they gathered to collect the day's bread. If Palestinians finally allowed a food delivery into a shelter with hungry Jews, then set fire to the entire shelter and aid truck before anyone could taste a bite of the food. If a Palestinian sniper bragged about blowing out 42 Jewish kneecaps in one day, as one Israeli soldier did in 2019. If a Palestinian admitted to CNN that he ran over hundreds of Jews with his tank, their squished flesh lingering in the tank treads. If Jewish women were forced to give birth in filth, get C-sections or leg amputations without anesthesia, if we destroyed their children, then decorated our tanks with their toys.
And she just stopped. Amazing. When you put the shoe on the other foot, you start to get a different perspective, don't you? And I'm sorry, I don't want anybody out there screaming, oh, you're an anti-Semite, you hate the Jews. Don't even go there. This is not about being a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or an agnostic or an atheist or anything. This is about being a human being. It's as simple as that. As a matter of fact, I have one more clip on this subject here from a Dr. Myriam Francois, and she's explaining what her assessment of Israel is. Listen up.
UK youth, a striking 54% today believe that Israel shouldn't exist. We have seen the most deranged behavior from Israelis. And I'm not just even talking soldiers. We've seen deranged behavior from soldiers, but we've seen deranged mothers on TikTok dressing up their children, with black eyes and missing teeth, or making fun of parents losing babies. We've seen soldiers urinating on Palestinian captives, children attacked by dogs, sexual assault, rape. At a certain point, for those of us who are looking at Israeli society, this is looking psychotic. Are Israelis aware that public perception today of Israel is of a deeply depraved society? I mean, you can put all the Hasbro spin that you want on this. There is no putting lipstick on a pig.
There's no putting lipstick on a pig, absolutely. And did you know that they've got observation platforms in Israel when they know that they're going to be out there bombing the snake snot out of Palestine, and people can go to the observation platform and watch the bombs go off? And if you don't make it to the observation platform, you can take your folding chair and go sit on the beach and bring your favorite beverage and sit there and watch the glowing in the sky, the night sky, as they bomb the crap out of Palestine. And these people see this as entertainment. This is insanity. And don't you dare say anything terrible like Free Palestine. Guess what? Listen up.
House of Representatives is scheduled to vote next week on a resolution that would deem the phrase Free Palestine to be, quote, an anti-Semitic slogan. So this is a 3-page resolution that somebody in the House passed to me. I'm told it's going to come up for a vote next week, and I'll put it up here. You can read it for yourself. And it's very cleverly worded from a political perspective, because it just, in the first page, says that Free Palestine is an anti-Semitic slogan that calls for the destruction of Israel. You can read it for yourself. But then the entire resolution is just condemning the terrorist attack that happened in Boulder, Colorado, where a person, you saw this in the news. And so anybody who votes against this resolution will be said to be voting to support that act in Boulder, Colorado.
Amazing.
So if you vote for it, you are deeming the phrase Free Palestine to be an anti-Semitic slogan, which is going to, anger free speech advocates, any supporters of Palestinian dignity, anybody with common sense. Saying Free Palestine, of course, is not an anti-Semitic slogan. But if you vote against it, then it's like, oh wow, you support terrorists. How about that?
Isn't that amazing how they figured that out? If you vote against it, you're an anti-Semite. It's brilliant, actually, the way they mess with the words. And by the way, in the state of New York right now, there were all these DEI hires, and there's all this money for people if they go DEI, diverse, equity, and inclusion. Okay, and they looked at the population of the United States, and there's 30-something, I forget what it was, 30-something% are Hispanic, 20-something% are black, and 3% are Jewish. Okay, let's stop right there. How do you separate racial issues with religious issues? They can't be lumped together. You can't say there's Hispanics, blacks, and Caucasians. I mean, you can say that, but you can't say there's Hispanics, blacks, and Jews. So they're screwing around with the words so that they can get the billions of dollars of DEI money to support all the Jewish organizations and causes that they've got there. They are absolutely brilliant. Now, I don't know how that we got into this position here, but people have got to somehow start thinking and figuring stuff out. I mean, because it's just insane what's going on. And, I'm really not surprised. I'm really not surprised because America has been so brutally dumbed down So brutally dumbed down. As a matter of fact, I want to play, there was a city council meeting, and you want to get an idea of how dumbed down our elected officials are. They don't know the basics of our founding documents. This is the beginning of a city council meeting that happened some years ago, and I find this appalling. Okay, this is the introduction to the city council meeting. Here it is.
With that said, we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance, and let's see, Dave Taylor, would you mind leading us this evening in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Okay, listen to this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, this nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
You can't even say the Pledge of Allegiance correctly. I mean, this is staggering. And these are the people who run, that's a local city council meeting, okay? And there's another clip here I want to play. This is, let me see if I can find this one real quick. Like, again, I got so much stuff open up on my computer here. Let me see, how did I put this in my file? Well, let me introduce you who I'm going to be playing, who you're going to hear from. This woman's name is Rebecca S. Pringle, and she's the president of the NEA, the National Education Association. All right? And let me see if I can find this audio clip, because she was speaking at, in Los Angeles to the crowds that were gathering there. And let me see if I can find that. Let me see. I know I saved it. I got, let me see. It should be under NEA or... what did I do with it? Well, let me see. I don't have a producer. I can't say, hey, play clip number 17, or pull this one up or pull that up. I don't have that I can't afford that particular luxury here. But anyway, can't find it. All right, I'll have to find it some other way. Oh, I know how I can do it. Let's see. Here it is. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Listen to this. This is amazing. Listen up.
We the people! We the people!
Yeah!
All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
What? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of what? And she is the president of the National Education Association. Now, if these people are in positions of power and they are so wrong about our founding documents, they don't know the Pledge of Allegiance, they don't know it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, no wonder we're in so much trouble these days. This is just insanity. Anyway, speaking of the L.A. riots, okay, now we all know that people are watching very carefully how Gavin Newsom is handling this situation. Okay, he's now going to try to sue Trump for bringing in the National Guard, okay, which is perfectly legal. And by the way, you folks out there in California, you're screaming against these ICE agents and the deportations, and they're saying, is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for? No, you idiot. It's what you voted for. When you had Biden and Harris in there, and they stopped the construction of the wall, not only stopped it, but sold off the remaining materials to get rid of any possibility that wall could go back up, and then opened up the borders and let tens of millions of illegals into this country, many of them military-age males from hostile countries. No wonder Tom Homan has to go through and just do a blanket grab everybody who doesn't have their right papers, who is not, a citizen. I'm not here talking about Gestapo tactics now, but my God, the liberals under the Biden-Harris administration created this problem. They created this, and now this is what's the result of it. Tom Homan and the Department of National Security, they're trying to clean this mess up and get these guys out of here. And meanwhile, what's been happening, and yours truly been screaming about this now for 2 years, is that all these illegal aliens coming across male military age. They were all given instructions. They were all given locations to go to where they would be housed. They would be fed. They would be supplied. They would be briefed. They would be given their missions. And they're just sitting there waiting for the word go. Well, you know what? Maybe the word go is coming this weekend. Because on the 14th, there's a website out there. It's nokings.org. And there are nationwide demonstrations, demonstrations, just like the demonstrations that are going on in L.A. And by the way, yeah, there are pallets of bricks and cinder blocks being placed all over Los Angeles. I mean, who's dropping these things off? Where's all this money coming from? Not only that, but there are cars going around passing out very expensive gas masks for the demonstrators so they won't have to deal with the tear gas. I mean, there's some serious stuff going on right now. But in the meantime, like I said, we've got Gavin Newsom. I don't have to remind you how many people are fleeing California because of his policies. And then you've got Karen Bass. Now, it's bad enough her response to the Palisades fires. She wasn't even in the country when that happened, and she was warned that it was going to happen. And isn't it funny that the water got turned off? Sort of like what happened in Maui. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then there's all the insurance companies that sort of all of a sudden, coincidentally, dropped all the fire insurance for these people whose houses burned down. But just to give you a little bit of an idea of what Karen Bass is all about, give a listen to this little bio about this woman, Karen Bass, who happens to be mayor of Los Angeles. This is her history. Listen up.
November 7, 1983. Remember this date, but first, let me introduce you to Karen Bass. Back in the 1970s, community activist Karen Bass went on at least 15 trips to Cuba, many with a group known as the Venceremos Brigade, a Marxist group started by the Castro regime to subvert American interests, weaken democracies, and spread communism around the world. Founded in 1969, the Venceremos Brigade organized trips to Cuba every year for half a century. They attracted the most radicalized and delusional segments of the American left, including overtly Maoist and pro-Soviet communist groups. In fact, a Los Angeles police investigator who infiltrated the group testified to Congress saying that to be a member of the brigade, you had to be confirmed as a Marxist-Leninist, as a brigadista, and then moving up the ranks to organizer for the Venceremos Brigade. Karen Bass visited Cuba every 6 months. Their mission? To radicalize young, impressionable American leftists in terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Members of the Venceremos Brigade were even taught how to make bombs. Karen Bass admits, on her many pilgrimages to Cuba, she went to see Fidel Castro speak several times, even calling him charismatic. And upon his death, praised him, saying, "The passing of Commandant en Jefe is a great loss to the people of Cuba, even though the people of Cuba see him as a dictator who impoverished their island." Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women-led domestic terrorist group. Since their founding in 1978, M19's tactics escalated from robbing armored trucks and abetting prison breaks to building their own explosives and carrying out terrorist bombings. From 1983 to 1984, M19 bombed an FBI office, the Israel Aircraft Industries building, the South African consulate in New York, DC's Fort McNair, and Navy Yard, which they bombed twice. But that wasn't enough for them. On the night of November 7, 1983, the M19 called the U.S. Capitol switchboard and warned them to evacuate the building. Minutes later, the M19 bombed the north wing of the U.S. Capitol. November 7, 2023 marks 40 years since the M19's bombing of the U.S. Capitol. Members of the M19, like Susan Rosenberg, traveled to Cuba with and were radicalized by the Venceremos Brigade. The South Los Angeles Venceremos Brigade was led by Karen Bass, who is now mayor of Los Angeles.
There you go. There's the history of Karen Bass. Now, would you say that she's a patriotic, red-blooded mom, dad, apple pie American? I don't think so. It's deeds and it's not words. Yeah, it seems like Karen Bass has a rather long piece of political toilet paper stuck to her shoe. And it ain't a good one, folks. So that leads us back, okay, if she's, such a dyed-in-the-wool communist, okay, let's stop and go back again. You look at history. Shall we look at the Bolshevik Revolution and see what happened there, where nearly 60 million Christians were slaughtered? Of course, you don't talk about that. I mean, you want to talk about the Holocaust, that's always 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million. Yeah. But they don't say anything about the Bolshevik Revolution, where 60 million Christians were being systematically slaughtered. You don't want to talk about that. And who was behind that? Who was behind that? It was the communist, the Ashkenazis, shall we say that? Can I say that without being called a name? Again, it's not me making this stuff up, folks. That's just history. Anyway, oh man, there's a lot of stuff here. I got to take a quick pause. I'm out of breath.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties. Results vary.
And you can get more tank by please visiting our website, the THE. Don't forget that magic word, the WTFreports.com. Visit the sponsors page, and not only will you find information about the Wave Watch, but you can also find out information about Get More Tank. And if you have any doubts about this product, well, then go to their website and read all the technical data. It'll tell you and spell it out exactly how the stuff works and why it works and what the benefits will be. Now, personally, I started using it a year ago, and the first thing I noticed is I had more power. I was almost feeling G-forces when I hit the gas. I was like, whoa, this car's going places. And after a couple tanks, you're going to start realizing an improved mileage. Now, anywhere between 15 and 20%, depending upon your make and model of the vehicle that you're driving. But if you're getting 20% better mileage, do the math. You spend $20, you get 5 tablets. Each tablet goes into a tank of gas. And if you're saving 20%, let me see, out of 5 tanks, that's 1 tank. So you're saving a tank of gas with one purchase of Get More Tank. This is a no-brainer, folks. You spend $20 and save a tank of gas. It's a win-win situation. Your car runs better, it runs cleaner, and it's more efficient. And it works better in diesel vehicles than it does in gas. So please, visit our website, the WTFreports.com. Click on the sponsors page and Get More Tank. You'll be glad that you did. All right, that said, we're in the closing minutes of today's broadcast. I know I covered a lot of stuff, and I didn't open the phone lines, well, specifically because I had a lot of stuff to cover. But, there's something now called fatigue that's going on around this country. People have had it with having the transgender stuff shoved down their throat, having racial stuff shoved down their throat, and people are starting to speak out about this. And as a matter of fact, there was a black woman who posted the following. And anyway, I had to cut half of this out because halfway through her post, she started dropping one F-bomb after another, after another, after another. This is what she has to say.
And another thing I want to say, I think that black people are superior. We are superior. Everything that we do, we dominate it. Every little thing. Some of the best entertainers are black. Sports is full of black people. We have invented everything. Self-lubricating engine, airplanes, cell phones. Everything. Stoplights. Everything. We are superior, and they know that. They know that, which is why they're trying to keep us down. Which is why they try to make us feel like we want shit. Whole time they ain't shit. Y'all could never, ever make me hate my people. Never. Which is why I don't condone interracial relationships. Because you ain't doing nothing but dilute your bloodline. That's all you're doing. But my issue with black people is we don't know how superior we are.
Yeah, I'm sure I'd have to agree with her on a couple things, especially when you go to visit a Waffle House. So there's a black woman saying that they're superior. And what's the response? Well, you know, like I said, people are getting sick of hearing this. They're getting sick of it. Here's a white girl saying, you know, with a response.
If you would have asked me like 9 months ago if I would ever be making pro-white content, I would have looked at you like you were insane. Like, the idea of a white person being proud to be white is so foreign to most of us. And it's really only been conflated with evil and hate and maliciousness. And it's like you stop and you think about that. Like, white people are really the only ones that are taught to hate ourselves. We're the only ones that are blamed for every and all atrocities across the planet over all of time. We are the only ones that are taught to be colorblind. We're the only ones that are constantly having diversity shoved down our throats. Like, we are a global minority being replaced in our own countries, and I've had it.
And she's had it. I don't blame you, sweetheart. You know, and this is what's going on all across Europe. The entire European population is being displaced by Middle Easterners, Africans, you name it. I mean, Sweden is not the same anymore. Not as it was 10 years ago. You know, I mean, look what's going on in the UK. How many of the cities in UK now have Muslim mayors? It used to be a Christian nation. Now, I'm not here trying to generate racial hatred one way or the other, but it seems it's the opposite. The powers that be are doing everything that they can to create racial division, religious division, a holy war, a racial war, an economic war. They want a civil war. And that, speaking of, this is what's a lot of people are talking about this coming weekend, because of all these demonstrations that are being planned all over the country. Yeah, the powers that be, they want this country to destroy itself. And there are a lot of people out there, a lot of conservative right-wingers out there, including former police officers and active duty police officers, who are saying, don't go. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. Let these demonstrators, and I'm using that word very loosely, let them go and do what they're going to do, because it's going to show the world exactly where they're coming from. So this is why, we're in a world of hurt, folks, and we're going to have to get on our knees and pray and get right with your spiritual center, whatever that may be. So, this is where we're at right now, because we are in a battle of good versus evil. And if you want to say it's God versus Satan, fine, whatever way you want to say it. But there is so much evil in this world, so much corruption. And the only way it's going to come out, we're going to come out of this, is if we go and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we look beyond the eyes. Forget the fact that you're white or you're black, or you got long hair, short hair, blue eyes, brown eyes. It doesn't make any difference. We all bleed the same red blood. We all need food, shelter, clothing, and love. That's what we need. And it's got nothing to do with your spiritual background or your race, your color, or your ethnicity. We should all be coming together and fighting the evil that is permeated the entire world. That said, that's going to wrap it up. I hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast. I know it's not easy to listen to. The truth is a bitter pill. But if you are, please support the WTF reports. You can GoFundMe. We got a GoFundMe page so we can upgrade to a podcast. That said, we're flat out of time. I'm Dave VonKleist. These are the WTF reports. God bless you all. Stay safe and stay free. I'll see you tomorrow.